So first of all, to kick off, to say a massive thank you for firstly your interest in the Scottish Edge competition, and then secondly for joining us this morning, giving up some of your valuable time. Over the next hour and a half to 2 hours, we'll take you through our Scottish Edge workshop. The purpose of that is to just give you some support around applying for the next round or the current round of Scottish Edge, which is round 20. So for anyone that doesn't know, I'm Stephen Hamill. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Scottish Edge. I'll take you through the majority of today's session. I'm joined on the session by a couple of our Scottish Edge team. So I've got Kevin Walls, one of our relationship managers. He will sort of take you through part of the session when we're looking at the sort of 3-minute video part. We'll take you through that. I've got my colleague Jack Proctor. He'll keep an eye on our chat and keep an eye on any questions that are coming in. We've also got Andy Palmer, our finance manager, who's with us today. If we need to go to Andy for any finance questions, we will. So as I say, this is about helping you prepare and navigate your way through the application process for Scottish Edge round 20. As you know, starting out in your business journeys that all of you're doing, it's a brave thing to do. And it's got its challenges. It's also got its rewards as well. But some of the challenges we've been finding out just now around that funding sort of support, and also just the climate we're going through just now, it's becoming more prevalent. So we know it's tough to get sort of funding. We know that's a big challenge. So that's why we want to give you as much support through this to get you best placed to try and have success in the Scottish Edge competition. As we go through the session, we'll touch on some of the different categories and awards, but ultimately, if you remember, as we're going through this, we've got funding, we've got support, we've got all that. We want to find the best businesses, and that's what our purpose is, to find those best businesses. And no doubt there will be some really good businesses on the session today who will hopefully apply and work your way through and hopefully get some success in the competition. So we want to be that organisation that's there to support you and fund you. So hopefully today's session will be beneficial. As I say, we'll try and make this as interactive as possible. We'll use a chat function throughout the day. So if you've got any questions as you go through the session, please ask. As I say, my colleague Jack has put out a wee message here just to ask any questions you've got on the chat, and we'll pick them up as we go along. And if there's any sort of key questions that will benefit the wider group, we'll try and come to them at the end of it. So I'm just going to share my screen. So hopefully you'll all see that, and I'll take you through our sort of slide deck, and we can start to take you through the workshop session. So hopefully you can all see that. So as I say, what we'll cover off today is quite a few things about the application process and get through the sort of different steps of the competition. So we'll touch on a little bit about what Scottish Edge is and why we exist and how we exist, and give you a wee bit of background information around the competition. We'll then take you through the different competition categories that we've got when you're looking to apply and trying to think what category is best suited to yourself. We'll then touch on some of the key dates which are applicable to this round. We'll then talk you through in quite a bit of detail the application process. I'll then pass over to Kevin. He'll take you through the sort of dreaded 3-minute video presentation that you need to do for Scottish Edge. Hopefully give you some tips in how to make that a lot easier when you're sitting there thinking about how to do that. We'll then touch on what happens next once you've done your application form, once you've done your video, you've submitted it into Scottish Edge. We'll then talk about what happens next in terms of the assessment process. And that gives you a really good insight into how that actually part of the competition works, but also we'll touch on what the assessors actually assess each business on, and it gives you a really good feel for what things work and what the assessors really look for. Then touch on some top tips from doing a number of different rounds of this. We've picked up a few things that sort of tend to work, but more on the don'ts side of things not to sort of traps to fall into. And as I say, we can pick up some questions at the end, but as I say, we've got a sort of question format if you can ask your questions as we go through the process. So, Scottish Edge, what is it? So, We've got on screen there what sort of our mission statement is, but effectively Edge has been on the go now for the past 9 and a bit years. So, and effectively we are a competition, as it says in our mission statement there. And that's really important to remember, and it's something we're keen to emphasise when you're going through today's session, but also when you're going through the application process and you're trying to put your application together in various parts of it. The competition element is important. And what that means is ultimately not everyone will be successful. And when you're applying and you're being assessed, you're going to be assessed in line with other applicants that come into the competition. So you want to make sure that when you put your application in for Scottish Edge, you're given a really good and true representation of your business. When we touch on some of the numbers in just a second of applications that we receive, it's really, really easy within that competition format when you see so many applications that we do in the competition to see the applications that just don't have the level of detail that's needed to stand out when you're assessing them versus other applications. So competition part is really important, but the other parts within our mission statement that's what Scottish Edge is, we're about identifying and supporting the up and coming entrepreneurial talent that we have here in Scotland. And that's the whole purpose of what we do. It's about trying to find early stage businesses who have got ambition, who have got drive, who have got sort of plans in place to become the next sort of high growth potential businesses in Scotland. And we want to get these businesses at an early stage and give them that funding support, which is really crucial and a fundamental reason why most businesses come into Edge. But we also want to back that up with a really, really good support network that we've got internally within our Edge team and also externally within the community that we have that support us at Scottish Edge. So that sort of support network becomes even more crucial for some of the businesses. A couple of the key words in our mission statement, it's about entrepreneurial talent, up and coming, high growth potential. So this isn't about well-established businesses that are already out there doing great things. And this is about trying to find businesses that are at the start of their journey and give them that boost to make that journey more smoother and quicker for them. So most of the businesses that apply and have success at Scottish Edge are either at a pre-trading stage or in the first year or two of their business journey. That's the sort of normal types of businesses that come into Scottish Edge and have some success. We've got various funding packages that come into the Scottish Edge sort of funding pot that allows us to do what we do. We typically now give about £1.5 million out every round of Scottish Edge. And we do that twice a year. And that funding comes from a various number of sources, probably too many now to cover it all, but some of our key funding supporters are, as you say, seen on screen here, we've got Royal Bank of Scotland, we've got Hunter Foundation, we've got Scottish Government and Scottish Enterprise. And those key funders, along with some of our partner organisations, have enabled us to grow to a stage where we're now unofficially seen as one of the biggest business competitions anywhere in the UK in terms of the funding we give out for the stage of the businesses and the fact that we don't take an equity part in any business. So it's purely prizes, and we'll touch on the breakdown of the prizes, but that gives us that sort of position within the UK. There's really nothing else like Scottish Edge anywhere, so we're quite fortunate here in Scotland. A couple of things just around the why we do what we do, plus also why it's beneficial for you to look at Scottish Edge as an option when you're looking at funding and potential support for your business. So one of the key things for us at Scottish Edge, we want it to be open for all. That's key for us. It's about, we're not sector specific, we're not tied by a specific, it's all about tech, it's all about food and drink. We've got businesses of all different sectors, all different corners of Scotland come into the competition. And that's what makes Scottish Edge unique. And that diversity of people that come in is sort of a real plus side for Scottish Edge, because every business that comes into Scottish Edge is different. And when we get to the very end of today's session, we'll show you a picture of our winners from the last round. You'll see the real mix of people, and ones, if you were to find out about those businesses, just the mix of what they do. So it's a really unique position, and it's one that anyone can win. There's no restrictions in terms of sectors or types of businesses that can come in. Another thing that's really important to us in delivering this, and also for yourselves as potential applicants, is we want to make sure that through Scottish Edge, that every applicant that comes into Scottish Edge benefits from going through that competition journey. This isn't just about the businesses who win. Obviously, they'll go through and they're the ones that get the funding pot, but we want to make sure that everyone that takes time to do an application form, does the 3-minute video, gets some value out of it. And how we do that is by sort of committing to give feedback to every applicant that applies to Scottish Edge. We'll touch on the assessment process and how that works in terms of the feedback and the people involved, but ultimately we'll have people looking at your business who don't know your business, and they'll have some business experience and work with lots of early stage businesses, and that insight from them is really beneficial to help you shape the next growth stage of your business. Through that feedback and those people looking at your business application, we can also build connections for you, so you can there might be people on that assessment panel that might want to offer you some support or know someone they can connect you with. So there's a sort of wider aspect of support there that comes for everyone who applies. So that feedback part is really quite positive for businesses, and we've had lots of stories from businesses who have went to other funders or applications or different things and not got feedback and not had a great experience. And we want to make sure we do that a bit differently at Scottish Edge. Also, for the ones who do progress in the competition and go on and maybe get some funding support from us and become part of our network, we've got a huge network now across Scotland of organisations and people and that we can look to connect people with, and that's something that comes through our relationship managers, and they'll connect you with a lot of our sort of community. So that it's not always just about the funding. Another part that's sort of quite unique for Scottish Edge is the way we operate our funding packages. So we've got various different categories, different types of funding support that comes through it. And one of the things that's really beneficial for Scottish Edge is when we do get winners and we agree a funding package with you, and what we then do is we give you that money up front, whereas a lot of other funding sources, you need to spend the money and maybe claim it back. So we don't do it that way. We'll give you the funding up front. We've also got, and we touch on some of the categories around there's a grant and loan split. You've got a sort of flexible way of looking at that to try and suit the age and stage of every business. And we'll discuss all them in a sort of one-to-one basis with all of our winners. So we've designed this in a way that's designed to try and help businesses who are at that early stage and looking to grow. But from doing this a number of rounds, one of the things that stood out to me, and I've put a wee quote on there for one of the most memorable quotes we've had from any of our winners, is just about the journey you go on as an entrepreneur through Scottish Edge and the benefits you get. And obviously most people, and we get this from most entrepreneurs, the first and foremost reason they come in is about the money. Because that's the thing that is going to appeal and help you take your business to the next stage you want to go. But what then people tell us further down the line is the thing that ends up becoming more beneficial is the contacts that they make through Scottish Edge. So that's the bits that have that more longer term benefit. So that's a little bit about Edge and what we do and why we do it, and some of the bits that sort of make us try and be a bit different from other things out there. Most people are on here just now because they're hopefully looking to apply for round 20. And what that means is we've already had 19 rounds. So this is just a little bit of a snapshot of what's happened in those 19 rounds. So as you can see on screen, we've seen 4,600 odd applications come in over the past 9 years or so. And as you can imagine, with that number of business applications, we've seen pretty much most things. we tend to say at Scottish Edge team, we probably see more business presentations and pitches than anyone else in Scotland. So we've seen quite a lot over the years. We've also supported quite a lot as well. So you see over those 19 rounds, we've given out 600 odd awards. That constitutes about 500 odd different businesses. We've given out over £20 million, and we've had businesses covering all sectors in all corners of Scotland. So if you're looking to apply, here's just a run through of our eligibility. So we've got different categories, and some have got some specific aspects to it, but ultimately we're looking for businesses that are in their early stage of their journey, so either pre-trading or have been trading for less than 5 years, must be headquartered in Scotland, and the key business founders or persons must be resident in Scotland, or at least 50% minimum must be resident in Scotland. Fitting in with the early stage nature, we're looking to make sure the businesses who are applying have got current turnover of less than £1 million or have raised less than £500,000 of investment. And the people who are applying, we want to make sure that, again, at least 50% of that business ownership is attributed to people working on this business that they're applying for on a day-to-day basis. The other part is that we're looking for businesses who can look to generate at least £200,000 cumulative over the next 3 years. So that's a sort of minimum sort of threshold and aspiration that we're looking for. We know that's not always possible for some of our sort of maybe technology-led or science-led businesses, where that time to market can be more than 3 years, and that's fine. We're happy to be flexible around that as long as there's a high growth plan in the pipeline for the future. So looking at some of the specific categories then just around, so those core aspects that we've just touched on are relevant to all the categories. But then if you look at our sort of Scottish Edge, our main category, so for that, applicants must be a registered entity. So they must be a limited company, must be a social enterprise, a charity. So you must have a sort of registration at Companies House or Oscar. For our social enterprise edge, that is only applicable to asset locked social enterprises. And again, we'll touch on some of these categories in a little bit more detail quite soon. So again, as I say, must be asset locked. For young age and wildcard edge, which is our sort of slightly earlier stage categories, you don't have to be a registered entity, so you can apply as a sole trader or partnership, or you can if you're still a limited company, so that's open to any type of business. But for young age, that means you must be aged 30 or younger, and that means all the key people in the business must be aged 30 or younger. And for wildcard age, you must be pre-trading, so any business that applies to Scottish Edge and is pre-trading, that gives you the option of getting in for wildcard. So that's our 4 main categories, which we'll touch on in a bit more detail. But effectively, when you come in to apply and you go through the application, you will then select which category is most applicable to you, and you will then pick that category, and that will be the category you'll focus on going through your application and your assessment journey. So on that journey that you go through Scottish Edge, this is just a map and trying to sort of outline the plan for how you go through navigate your way through it. So we've got 4 different categories which we've touched on there on the eligibility. You'll see on the bottom left of your screen, I think you'll see Scottish Edge, and sort of logo in some boxes, and a box below it with some different categories in there. So that's one category, and then hopefully on the right hand side of your screen you'll see social enterprise, young age, and then wildcard sort of logos on there. And the reason we've put them on different sides, they've got slightly different journeys as you navigate your way through it, and we'll touch on each one separately. But for starters, we'll start on the Scottish Edge side of things. So when you come in, you select your category. So if you're selecting Scottish Edge, you would then go through and submit your online application. So and you do a 3-minute video. So from a Scottish Edge website, you go in, you click on apply, and then you work your way through all the application questions. You do your 3-minute video, you put your link in there, And then that's you, when you click the submit box, you're effectively entering into the sort of Scottish Edge competition for round 20. Once you've put your application in, that's basically all you can do for that stage. And then we then put that to our independent assessment panel. And those independent assessment panels will look at your application and they'll make a judgment on that based on our assessment standards, which we'll cover off. And then if you're successful from that initial stage, you will then be invited to a semi-final stage. Semi-finals are all done virtually. It's kind of like a Dragon's Den type pitch. You come in and you deliver a 3-minute pitch, and you'll then get between 8 to 10 minutes of questions from a panel of judges. And it's a different panel of judges who would have looked at it from the first stage. So it is different judges through each stage. At that semi-final, it is a closed environment, so it's just you and the judges. They will ask you some questions, they'll review your application beforehand, and they will hear your pitch. And from that, they'll then assess you against the same standards that we work to throughout the whole competition. And if you make it through, you'll get invited to the Scottish Edge final. For all the businesses that make it through to the semi-final, to further enhance what you put on your initial application form in terms of your sort of financial projections and your sort of business growth plans, we then ask you to do a cash flow forecast. So just to delve a bit deeper into the financial position of the business and the plans going forward. And that helps us position a stronger overall business case to you when we put that in front of the semi-final judges. And then that gives us, for the businesses that go through, we've got a really good, strong proposition to take forward into our final. So we'll have your cash flow, we'll have your application, we'll have all your assessment feedback from your first stage and semi-final, and that all then gets shared with our judges for the final. The Scottish Edge final is a public event. It's our sort of showcase event that we have. It's one of the biggest events in the Scottish business calendar throughout the year. And what we do there is we'll take our finalists through, and you'll be invited to come along and stand on stage, and you will pitch to another panel of judges on the stage for 3 minutes, and then you'll get 10 minutes of questions. And that final is done in a public environment. So we'll have a watching audience come along. We typically get anything between 100, 200 people come along. So it's quite a daunting experience, but we find most businesses really thrive on it. We give you lots of support to support and get you on stage beforehand and practice your pitch. So there's lots of support out there to get you ready for that. And from that final, the judges at the final then select who our winning businesses is, and all of our Scottish Edge winners win a Scottish Edge award, which is part grant, part loan. So there's a 70% loan part of it and 30% grant. And that's something we work with you on, that award, and we speak to you about it afterwards and work out a package that works for you as a business in the stage you're at. So that's the Scottish Edge journey. Also within Scottish Edge, we've got some special category awards that we have established, that we have built in with partnerships to sort of shine a light on specific sectors and types of businesses. So in the box there on the bottom left of your screen, we've got some specialist category awards. So we've got a Net Zero Award, which we partner with Royal Bank of Scotland. We've got an STV Growth Edge Award, which gives our winner an additional prize on top of their cash award that they win from Scottish Edge of some advertising time with STV. So you win £75,000 worth of TV advertising time courtesy of STV. We've got a Circular Economy Edge Award through Zero Waste Scotland, Industrial Biotechnology Award for businesses in that category, and a Creative Edge Award. So we shine a light on some specific categories, but within Scottish Edge, we've also got a number of awards out with those categories that are Scottish Edge, just standard awards, and you can win up to £100,000 in that category. So that's Scottish Edge. So then if we flip to the other side of the screen, when we've got our other categories. So again, the start of the journey is the same. You select your category, you submit the same application forms you would for Scottish Edge. You do your 3-minute video, and then you go to a first stage assessment panel. And again, it's an independent panel. There, from that stage, we then invite you, if you're successful in Social Enterprise Edge or Young Edge or Wildcard Edge, you will then be invited to a category final direct. So there's no semi-final, it's straight to the category final for that particular category. And then at that category final, you do a 3-minute pitch and there's 7 minutes of questions. And those sessions are done in a closed environment. Again, done probably mostly will be done virtually this round, and it's just you and the judges. So obviously, so there's a separate Scottish Edge Social Enterprise Edge final, a separate Young Edge Finals Day, so a separate Wildcard Edge final. And from those finals days, we will select the winning businesses, our winners, and we'll touch on the number of winners we get in each category in just a second. So that is the journey you go on. So the focus of today's session is really on that first part of it, when you submit your application form and doing your 3-minute video. So that's the whole purpose of today's session. We will have further workshop once we go beyond the first stage and we get to the sort of what we call the live pitching stage. When you're actually pitching to a panel, we'll have a further workshop to give you more support around that stage of the competition. So for round 20, we wanted to make it a little bit special, or just make it a little bit different from what we do as a norm at Scottish Edge. And because of that, we've added in some new aspects to it that are hopefully beneficial to you as applicants coming into the competition. So we've added something new for every different category of the competition, plus an overarching category that our award that we're bringing in to sort of make it open to all as well. So for Scottish Edge, in addition to getting through the process, getting access to the network if you win, and a prize up to potentially £100,000, one Scottish Edge winner will also get an opportunity to spend some time with Sir Tom Hunter, spend time with his investment community through West Coast Capital. So that will be quite a valuable time that you'll be able to spend with one of Scotland's top entrepreneurs. So that will hopefully give really good insight and expertise and benefits to you as a business if you are the selected winner of that top award. For Social Enterprise Edge, we mentioned earlier that the awards in Scottish Edge are 70% loan, 30% grant. We'll have one Social Enterprise Edge winner. Through our partnership with Postcode Lottery, we've been able to enhance the prize offering for the social enterprise category to make it a 70% grant and a 30% loan split. So, and that'll be a top prize award up to £75,000 for the top social enterprise in the competition. For Young Edge, we will have a number of winners. We will have who win £10,000, but we've added in, we used to have one top prize winner of £15,000. To recognise round 20, we're going to have a top prize of £20,000, and that'll be purely a grant. And the same applies to Wildcard Edge. We'll have standard prizes of £10,000, and there'll be a one-off top prize of £20,000. The other thing we're looking to add this round as well is a special community award. So that's for businesses who go through the competition and potentially don't win in one of the categories, so are maybe not a Young Edge winner or a Wildcard winner or a Scottish Edge winner, but they maybe got to semi-final or got to a Young Edge final and not been selected as a winner, or just stood out in the competition for something they're doing really positively for their community or for the environment, or something that just is making a real difference. And we are going to put a special award up. So we'll pick maybe 2 or 3 or 4 businesses that stand out in that element, and we will then get those businesses to put a business case together and maybe a video together, and we'll showcase that to our Scottish Edge community, and they will then vote on who will be the winner. So that community will be our partner organisation, maybe past judges, some of maybe our audience at the final. So a mixture of people will vote for the winner of that award, and that will be a prize potentially up to £10,000 grant or so. So we've got some things in there that even if you're not successful in the first stage or through, if you go through to semi-final, there's still an opportunity if you're doing something really good in your community or for the environment that can help potentially win a Scottish Edge award. So those are new things we've brought in for round 20 that are hopefully quite appealing to the people looking to apply. So just a little bit of a sort of summary of the number of prizes we give out. think I mentioned at the outset, we give out about £1.5 million every round. And we're looking to do something similar in round 20. That prize pot is split across the different categories. And at this stage of the competition, when we are taking in applications and speaking to people that apply and supporting businesses through that journey, we've got no idea how many applications we'll get. We've got at this stage. In the last round, we got, I think it was 177 applications overall. In the round before, it was 260 odd applications. Before that, it's been at 300. There's been rounds about 200. So it's really, really difficult to gauge. But if we base it on an average, which works out about 230, we've tried to take a guess of how many will be applicable for each category, just on using previous numbers. And we've looked at sort of Scottish age as, for example, we might get 100 applications are going specifically for the Scottish age category. We'll probably have about 19 awards in that category, which easy to do the maths on that one is probably a 19% chance of success. So if you're coming into Scottish age, looking to win up to £100,000, that grant and loan split, you've got about a 19% chance of success in the category. Then young age, again, similar stats on the screen, about 50 coming in. We'll have 14 awards. So through some support we got from Scottish Enterprise a few rounds ago, we've managed to double our amount of winners in the sort of young age category, just in recognition of helping young people sort of start out in the business journey. It gives you about a 28% chance of success in the young age category. Wildcard, whilst that's a pre-trading category, it's all about innovation and trying to get that wow factor from businesses, and that's what makes it stand out. Wildcard is often seen as our toughest category, even though it's the early stage types of businesses. It's one of our smaller prize pots, but it's the toughest category to get success in terms of or one of the toughest anyway. We think about maybe 70 businesses maybe looking to apply for Wildcard as a preferred category, and we'll have 8 winners. And that's 7 winners of £10,000 and 1 top prize winner of £20,000, and that's about 11% chance of success. Social enterprises, again, we don't know how many will come in, but if we got 10 and we've got 1 social enterprise edge winner winning that enhanced grant and loan offering, where it's a 70% grant, again, it gives you a 10% chance of success. So over 230, if we use that as an example, we've got 41 winners. There's just a sort of 33% chance of you getting through the competition, and about a 20% or so chance of you getting some success in the competition overall. So that's the odds. So it's not easy. The competition standard is high. So, and remembering, as we said at the very outset of this session, it is a competition. And when you're coming in, you will be assessed and gauged against other businesses that are coming in. So you want to make sure when you're doing an application, you're doing your video, you're giving a really, really good, strong representation of your business and trying to touch on the assessment standards that we look to assess on. But just a quick thing, just to we touch on the numbers and the winners. For me, listening to lots of assessor discussions and being part of those decision-making discussions between judges and who should win and who should go to finals, what tends to stand out is probably one of 2 things. You've got businesses that are really exciting in terms of that high level of innovation. So sometimes, for example, it could be a medical thing that is potentially going to be groundbreaking. What you tend to find with these businesses, they tend to be quite early stage in the journey. But what gives them the sort of element of being backable from the judges is that they've not just got an idea, they've got a plan, they've got a sort of people with credibility, they've sort of outlined where they are in that journey, and they've outlined quite strongly where the Scottish Age Funding will really help them grow that business and take it forward. So it's not just about a great idea, it's about a great idea but backing up with some substance around how you're going to deliver on that idea and take it forward, and how Scottish Age can help. So that's one type of business that tends to do quite well in the competition. The other type is just a really good business. It doesn't have to have that wow, that's amazing. That can change lives and save the world and all these things. It can just be a really good, solid business that's out there and doing really good things. They've got really good community around them and mentors around them and advisors around them. They've got a sort of bit of traction in terms of the sector they're in. They've maybe made some sales or building up lots of partnerships or interest or demand. So it's about just that really good business and presenting a really good, solid case and saying, with Scottish Edge help, we can then take this business from where we are just now to this rate of growth quite quickly. So when you're going through your application, again, try and put yourself in one of those two positions and going, right, how can I really present my case as a really solid business and how Edge can help, or something that's really going to get the judges excited about what we're doing. And this is just a summary of some past winners that we've had, just to give you a sense of the journey they've went on, but also the range of types of businesses that we've got. So one business here, Scottish Edge, we've got a business called Come In the Last Round Potter Pots. Came in, it was a first-time applicant. They hadn't applied for Scottish Edge previously. They come in and they make plant pots. And if someone was to come in and say to us, oh, you've got an applicant coming in, they deal with plant pots, our probably initial response would be, not sure how that will stand out in Scottish Edge, but they've come in with a really innovative concept of doing something that's really sustainable. They've got a really good team. They've built some real good interest from potential organisations who are keen to work with them, and they just blew the judges away round after round with what they were looking to do with their business. So initial perception was not sure about this one, like when you hear about it, plant pots, but it just showed you the element of, if you've got something quite clever around your business, you can really stand out in the Edge competition. Then for social enterprise, we had Social Stories Club, who are just really doing really good things to promote other social businesses in terms of their products, and they are putting together gift packages for corporates in terms of bringing together lots of different really sustainable social-led product and putting them into a nice gift box. It's packaged up really well, and that's sent out to corporates and they use for gifting, and they really stood out with the social impact that we're looking to deliver, but also the traction they were making in terms of their commercial progress. Then we've put Wildcard Edge for Solaris Kit, which is a business that came to us with a flat packable solar panel charging system that's for to help heat water within. It was originally for the African market. Came in a few rounds ago and won £10,000 in Wildcard Edge, and that was great. It was really good business to support, really innovative, and it stood out in the wildcard category at the stage they were at when they were still pre-trading. They then used that funding to continue to grow the business and take it forward and use that network to continue to take things in a sort of positive way. They then come back in a further round and they applied again for Scottish Edge, and then they walked away with another £100,000 prize. So that's what Wildcard is for. It's that platform for future Scottish Edge winners. It's about coming in and really demonstrating you've got something really early stage, but something that's got really strong potential. You present that case, and then we would hope with support from Wildcard Edge, you would then be able to be in a position to come back in 6 months or a year's time and win a higher amount of funding. And then for Young Edge, we've got Conglomerate Games, who are an early stage games company who are developing games that have got a medical aspect to it. They've highlighted some areas where gaming can be good in terms of medical conditions, and they have developed games to support those aspects. So they won £10,000 in Young Edge, I think it was 2 rounds ago. And again, that type of business, we would hope they'll use that funding, push on, do what they intended to do with the Young Edge Award, and then come back to Scottish Edge when they're ready to apply for a further amount. So that's just a summary of a range of different types of businesses, and it shows you the breadth of things that come into Scottish Edge and just a small number of winners, but also shows you how businesses of all sorts can win and the stages that you can win at. So round 20 is upon us just now. It's hopefully you'll all have had a quick look at the application process and potentially maybe started your application already. If not, and you are looking to apply, then the key date that you need to pencil in is the 23rd of August. So we are quite a nice team at Scottish Edge. We're quite supportive. We're here to help. We want to make the competition as accessible for you. We want to try and help you be as successful as you can in it and give you that support to make you as ready as you can to present a strong case. So we're here to do that. The only thing we're not so nice about is the deadline date. That's a strict date where really we cut off our application window on the 23rd of August at 2 o'clock. And after that, we can't accept applications. We can't accept updates to applications. We can't accept video links after it. It's a strict deadline and we require all our applications to come in ahead of that. So hopefully, if you've not started your application, you'll give yourself enough time to get it done by then. If you have already started your application, if you can keep working through it, make sure it's done by then. Then once that deadline closes, we then start to pull everything together for the first stage assessments. They start on the 5th of September and then they'll commence towards the end of September and we'll look to get the results out by the 29th of September. So everyone who applies will know their assessment result and they'll get feedback then by the 29th of September. And then on the screen there, you'll see the rest of the dates that are sort of set in stone for the competition. We've got all of our judges lined up for those days. And so those dates are set. So if there's a category that you're looking to apply for and on the date you've got other plans or you've got something else lined up, you please let us know as soon as possible. We can see if we can sort an alternative for you. But more than likely, we'd need to say to you, it might be better you come in the next round if you can't sort of pitch at the specific date that we've got lined up. But hopefully there's enough notice here for any categories that you want to go in for. So I've touched on Edge, what it is, what it can give you, different dates. So this is the next section is just about how do you apply. So again, we'll run through this and I'll hand over to Kevin to talk you through about the video part of it. And then we'll come back and touch on the different categories where we'll give you some real in-depth detail around what the judges look for, and that will help you when you're doing your application. So application is on our website, so it's just www.scottishedge.com, and this is the screen you'll get as a sort of a landing page, and then you just click on the Apply Now button. So that's straightforward. Then that takes you into our application portal. When you go into it, you'll have two options. If you're a brand new applicant to Scottish Edge and you've not applied on the portal before, you use the new applicant tab, click on that, and then you'll click on the launch button, apply now for round 20, and you're not registered already on the portal. If you have applied before or you have entered a portal in a previous round but not submitted an application and you've already got sign-in details, you can just put already registered, and then you can just go in and click on the button and that'll take you in. You'll sign in using your email address and your password. If you don't remember your password, there's a forgot your password link and you can sort of reset your password. So that takes you into, once you're in, you set up your account, you're into our portal, and then there's a number of screens that take you through just all the business or key information data collection part of it's about your details, your business name, your sort of website, all that information. And then once you go through that, that's you then put all your information in, we get to your application screen. Apologies, we know that's really difficult to read on screen. It's easier when you see it on the portal when you're into it. But this is the one screen. So when you're on the portal, you've got sort of one screen where you access all your application questions from. So what you'll see on screen is some information. There's quite a lot of text on there, but the important bit is the middle section that says application questions. It's kind of squeezed in a little bit to make it all in one screen, but that's the important bit of your whole application. You'll see there's some boxes just below where it says application questions. You've got 8 boxes there for 8 different sections, and then you've got your video link. sort of box where you insert your video link once you've got that. So when you're going through your application, what you want to do is click on those 8 individual boxes one at a time and go through and answer the questions. So you click on funding, and funding then asks you what category you want to apply for, and basically how much you want to apply for from Scottish Age. So if you're applying for Scottish Age, that can be up to 100,000, applying for social enterprise up to 75,000, wildcard age and young age, whilst there's a top prize of 20,000, we tend to ask you to apply for 10,000. That's where most of the prizes will be. And if you win 20,000, we'll work with you on how you would spend the rest of it. So you click on each of those question boxes and you answer all the questions as you go through. You can work on one at a time and save it, and you don't have to do all the questions at the one go. So you can save it, you can work on value proposition, and then close it off and save it and come back a couple of days later and work on the next section. So, and as you click on each box, this is that's a funding question that you'll get. And then you get a screen kind of like this that gives you the chance to give some detail about your business. So we'll ask some specific questions and there'll be a question box where you can put in your answers. Each question box will have a word limit. So most of the questions are shorter, sharper questions. These ones in the team part are just in case there's a few people in the team, you can give us some information about each individual. But most of the questions are quite short and sharp and just looking for some specific information as you go through it. So that's how you do it. And then once you've clicked on all the questions and completed them, you're satisfied you've done it all, you then put your video link in. And then once you've done all that, at the bottom, there's a sort of tick box to confirm that you're happy with your application. And then there's a bottom, just a button there at the bottom that comes live, and you tick all that and you've done your answers just to submit. And once you do that, that's you done. And as long as you do that before 2 o'clock in the afternoon on 23rd of August, and then you'll be submitted into this round of the competition. So that's the application process. Just on screen here, again, I'm not going to go through these at this stage. We'll touch on some of these as we go through the assessment part of it and what judges look for. But effectively on screen just now, this is really what we ask you in that 8 boxes of the sort of portal questions. This gives you a really short summary of what we're looking for. None of the questions in the sections are designed to catch you out in any way. They're designed to get information from you and tease out information and get you to think about your business maybe a different way from what you think about it just now in whether it's day to day or week to week. We want you to think a little bit more longer term, what you can achieve, what impact you can deliver. So these are things that we just want to tease out and get you to think about. But that gives you a sense of what we're asking you. So that's all just now from me in terms of the application process and Edge. I'm going to hand you over to Kevin and our team, who will take you through the sort of 3-minute video, and he'll give you some guidance on how to put that together if you're sitting there going, don't know what to say or what to do, and give you some sort of ideas that you can think about. So Kevin, just hand over to you and I'll come back and take over in a few minutes.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Kevin Walls, and I'm one of the relationship managers for Scottish Edge. And my job is to look after all the winners of the competition that secure funding. So anyone who actually gets through the process, secures an award, they then get looked after by the relationship management team. And that support, as Stephen was talking about earlier, comes in a variety of forms. It can be something as simple as helping them get a connection into the Scottish network, helping them find a new contact, helping them find additional funding of some kind, solving a problem in their business. It's really about that additional support beyond the competition. But what I want to share with you today is my experience of 3-minute pitches and pitch videos. So I've been working with startups and scale-ups for 7 or 8 years now, and I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of pitch videos across my career. I've seen some fantastic ones, I've seen some mediocre ones, and I've seen some terrible ones where I don't even get past the first 30 seconds. What I want to try and share with you guys is I want to give you all my experience and kind of hints and tips around how to put a 3-minute pitch video together that's really going to capture the judge's attention. Okay, so this is born out of all the experience of me watching videos, of me reviewing applications in the past. So before I started working for Scottish Edge 4 years ago, I actually took part in a first stage assessment process. So I've been an assessor in Scottish Edge. I've read through, I think at the time I had 22 applications to go through and 22 videos to watch. So it's really important for me that the pitch video itself adds value to the application. And it's done in a certain way that captures the judge's attention. So I want to share some of that with you this morning to make it as clear and concise, and as it's something that's going to add value to your application, and hopefully something that makes you stand out from everyone else in the competition. Because as Stephen said, this is a challenging competition. You know, the judges will assess the applications and the entrepreneurs and the pitch videos against others. So you want to make sure you stand out, but you stand out for the right reasons. So the 3-minute pitch video, it's effectively there to bring your application form to life. So if you've completed any kind of form of application for a funding process, there's a lot of text in there. There's a lot of information. The 3-minute pitch video is designed for you to bring that to life so that the assessor can get to see who is the entrepreneur or who's the team behind this idea, what is the idea they've got, why is it important, and what do they need from Scottish Edge. Now, we've developed a structure to a pitch that we'll talk about in a second, to help you figure out what is it you want to say and how do you want to say it in that 3-minute period, okay? And we'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk you through the whole process of that and the best practice that we've found that works really well. But that's your opportunity to put yourself in front of camera, in front of the judges virtually, to say, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is why it's so important that Scottish Edge support us. Okay, so I've got a few hints and tips around how do you go about this and the don'ts of videos. So I want to cover them off first before I start to look at the structure. Okay, so here's some kind of headline stuff to think about. You may be looking at this screen and thinking, oh my God, a 3-minute pitch, that is the worst thing ever. I can't think of anything more terrifying than doing this. So what you have to understand is that it's, again, bringing your application form to life. So if you're in a team, of people and there's more than one person in a team, or there's more than one director, or there's more than one person leading the team, my advice is to get the person who's the most confident at pitching to pitch a video. Okay. Now that's not to say it's one of your sales colleagues. It's not to say it's one of your, if you've got a team of 10 people, it's not to say it's someone who works on a shop floor. We want to see the entrepreneurial founder here. But if there's several entrepreneurial founders, we'd like to see the one who's most confident at pitching, because we want to give you the opportunity of showcasing your business idea, your entrepreneurial thinking as best as possible. Okay, so sometimes it's not always about the founder pitching. You may have a co-founder and they may be more confident at pitching. So we recommend that the co-founder would potentially pitch in that instance. Okay. Now, when it comes to the video production, we're not looking for a Spielberg production. We don't ask you to spend a great deal of time on the filming of it, but we ask you to spend some time on the creation of the content and thinking about what you want to say, which I'll cover in a second. So to give you an example, I remember watching an application video once when I was assessing, and I always watch the video first and then I read the application. Now, some assessors do it the other way around, but for me, when I was doing assessing, I would watch the video to get an overview of who are the people behind this business, what are they doing, why is it so important, and then I would read the application form where it would all start to make sense and it would flesh out the detail. So that's my personal preference when I was assessing. Watch the video, get to know what the business idea is, who are the people behind it, why is it important, and then I would read the application form itself. But there was one time I watched a video and it was literally a person walking down a windy street in Aberdeen of an afternoon holding their phone in front of their face. And you could not hear a single word they were saying. So the lesson there is, take your time, think about where you want to film this, make sure that the sound is clear, your audio is clear, and it actually adds value to your application. When I seen that video, my first impression of this application was, this is a last-minute application. And when I opened the application form, lo and behold, there was very little text and there was very little information. There is no point in waking up on the 23rd of August and deciding, I'm going to put an application form into Scottish Edge. You're wasting your time. Don't do it. You need to plan this. You need to plan your time. You need to think about what you want to put in your application form, and you want to think about what you put in your video. Take your time, and make a good effort, because if you rush it, then you can't expect an assessor to spend time reviewing your application form if the effort has not been put in to put the quality of information into the application form itself. Now, as Stephen touched on earlier, the application form actually gives you the key questions that the assessors are looking for. So the foundation of all your answers should really just be around answering the key questions and answering them clearly and concisely. So if you do that, then you're giving the judges all the information they need potentially to start assessing you fairly along with everyone else. So the video itself, we'll talk about the structure in a second, but there's a few kind of key things I want you to consider when you start to think about the video itself, okay? It is an addition to your application form, so it needs to add value. There's no point in having it telling a story for 3 minutes on a video and it's not relevant to the application. It clearly has to link. You're condensing your application form into a 3-minute story, okay? So a few things to think about. When you're pitching for 3 minutes, use the 3 minutes and use the 3 minutes only. You may go over a little bit, you may go over 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, the judges will be fine with that. But I've seen videos that go on for 4 and 5 minutes, and that's not, it will be submitted, but the judges won't assess the final minute and a half usually, because when the judges get multiple application forms to review, you can't expect a judge to watch 5, 6, 7 minutes of your video when everyone else is submitted 3 minutes. So be precise, get your key information across in 3 minutes, let the judge absorb it and let them take in that key information. So very clear, very concise. If you have a product or service, this is a good opportunity to showcase it, bring it to life, because you can't do that in your written application. You can do it verbally, but your video gives you the opportunity to put up a slide or hold up a product, if it's a physical product, and demonstrate what the product looks like, what it feels like, and let the judges visualize this product, or even visualize a service. It may be a slide or a description, something visible, a graphic of some kind that demonstrates your service. Because remember, when people watch video content, they can absorb twice as much information at the same time as verbal or as written content. So it's really important you get your content right and how you want to add that value. Now, when it comes to content in your video, do not make it a slide deck presentation. I have seen videos that get submitted and it's effectively someone talking over a presentation, talking over a PowerPoint. That's not what the judges are looking for. They want to know the entrepreneurial team behind this. They want to see the whites of the eyes of the entrepreneur and the founders and let them speak for themselves. Get connected with the assessors and be yourself. Let the judges see your passion behind this and why it's important that the judges look at your application in detail, why they assess you very highly and why they want to put you through. If you're talking over a slide deck, the judges cannot connect with the founder. So don't talk behind the slide deck. We want to see the entrepreneurial team on camera. When I say no more than 3 minutes, you may well be thinking, well, how do I get that big application into 3 minutes? That's down to you to think about the key messages you want to get across. But a quick tip for guidance, we generally find that to speak at a good rate of language where people can follow, at the moment, I'm probably speaking about 150 words per minute. So we use that as a guide. And we would recommend that if you're pitching for 3 minutes and you look at the script that you've written for your video, do a word count and try and be around 450 words, because that should be a good rate of your talk to make sure that the judges are keeping up with the flow, they're following what you're saying, and you're not going too fast, but again, you're not going too slow. So that's a general rule of thumb, 150 words per minute. So if you're pitching for the 3 minutes, you want to be aiming for approximately 450 words. The pitch video itself, once it's complete, we ask you to upload it to YouTube. We can accept via Vimeo, but our preference is YouTube. But there is a link on the website to show you how to make it unlisted, which we'll come to in a second. So Jack's our resident expert on the videos. So if there is any questions on the uploading of the videos after you've looked at the portal and after you've looked at the guidance on the videos, you can always come back to either myself or Stephen or to Jack around the video. Okay, really when the key fundamentals for your pitch video is be yourself, be confident and be clear. It's really important. Again, I'm going to stress it again. The judges want to see the people behind this idea, see the person behind this idea. Why is it important to you? Why are you passionate about this? Let the judges see that. So be on camera, be brave, tell your story. This is your opportunity to take 3 minutes out of your life to bring this entrepreneurial story to life. You know, you've created this thing. People want it. You know you can do good, or you know you can bring a service to market, or you know you can create jobs, whatever that is. But it's something you're passionate about. So get yourself on camera, let the judges see that passion, let them buy into it. Because remember, people buy people. Judges buy people. They want to see the passion. They want to see the people behind it. They can get so much from an application form and say, that looks amazing. But until you see the people or the person behind it, that's what really sells it. That's what really connects the judges to say, wow, that's impressive. Okay. So, Stephen, if you wouldn't mind, changing slide. Thank you. So, when you're building your business story, this is a structure of your pitch. If you've never done one before, this is a structure of your pitch that we recommend you use. Now, you can Google a pitch structure right now, and you'll find lots and lots of different versions, and you're free to use whatever version you like. You don't have to use this. However, in experience of Scottish Edge and having thousands of applications over the years, this is one structure that works really well for a judge or an assessor to keep up with the flow of the story. Okay, so I'll go through these headings first of all the way to the end, and then I'll go back and I'll talk you through in a little bit more detail, and I'll explain why we've got this structure in place. So when you're thinking about what do I want to say in 3 minutes, okay, try and thinking about breaking it down into these 9 categories. Okay, we always recommend that your introduction or your hook starts off strong. Okay, so your hook is what gets your audience interested. Second part is a business inspiration. So why did you start this? Are you solving a problem? Is it a personal story? Is it a societal issue? Then your solution. Talk about what it is you've come up with. What is your product or service that really solves this pain point for your clients? And then a customer opportunity and revenue model. So who are your customers? How do you know the customers? What customer discovery have you done? And how have you validated that there is a need for this product or service? And how have you validated that there's a potential revenue model here? And I'm going to pause at this point. In my experience, customer discovery on the application form tends to be one of the areas.
Okay.
Jamie Kennedy, thank you. The customer discovery section, the customer opportunity section on the application form tends to be the section that actually people fall down on. They tend not to put the right amount of information in there. They don't quantify what customer validation has been done. So when it comes to the application, your validation of your customer segment is really, really important. And if it's strong in your application form, it'll be strong in your video. For example, we have interviewed 100 people and 75% of those people said this, okay? Rather than saying, we have interviewed some people and they said this. Quantify what you've done, because if you ask 5 friends and family, it's not the same as asking 100 customers, okay? So you can see immediately in terms of validation. So quantify that for the judges and let them see that you've spoken to enough of a customer segment to validate at whatever stage you feel is necessary to validate your proposition. The next section of your pitch structure, we recommend you talk about your competition and your intellectual property. So what makes you different? What makes you stand out? What is your unique selling point? And have you created any intellectual property that will give you a competitive advantage in your market segment? Next section is the team. So talk about the team as they are at the moment. You may well talk about the team you need to have in future, but crucially, who looks after the key stuff? Who looks after the commercials? Who looks after the finances? Who looks after the kind of strategy of the business idea? Even if it's a very early stage, even if it's a wild card or a young edge, you still want to talk about the team at the moment. Now, that might be a solo founder, and that's okay. Because remember, a solo founder is very rarely on their own. Their team can be business advisors, it could be mentors, it could be other entrepreneurs. So you can talk about that level of support you've got who effectively make up the entrepreneurial team. They may not be paid employees, they may not work for your company, but they effectively make up the team of support and advice and guidance you get, you can talk about in your pitch video. The next section to think about is traction. So crucially, so what have you done so far? Have you made any sales? Have you got any trials lined up with key customers? What have you done so far to get to this point that you feel the need to come to Scottish Edge and say, I now need some money and some support to get me to this next inflection point? So really important to say, I've got as far as I can, I've managed to get this done, but I now need help to get to here. The next section we think about is in line with your application form, is what impact can you do? Okay, what good is your business delivering? Or crucially, what good does your business aim to deliver in the future? Okay, now that's crucial because a lot of startup companies are really dealing with the key focus they're dealing with is how do I get started? How do I get customers? How do I attract people to the team? How do I get myself surviving the first 2 or 3 years? But the impact section is about what you intend to do in future. So what kind of business model are you setting up? What is your values? You know, what is the culture going to be of your business? And how are you going to intend to have an impact in future? Whether that be societal, whether that be environmental, or whatever that may be. If you want to be a living wage employer, or whatever the scheme is, if you want to make an impact on your society, on Scotland, or the environment, talk about what you're doing now and talk about what you intend to do in future. And then you ask the key part of your application and your video. So what do you want from Scottish Edge? Okay, you're obviously applying for funding, but what is that funding going to do for your business? And really explain to the judges that it's crucial that at this time you need this funding, because if you win £10,000 or £100,000, you can then go on to achieve X, Y, and Z. So you want to lay that out for the judges that if you give us this money now, we're at a critical inflection point. We need that cash boost. We need the support of Scottish Edge relationship management team to push on, because if you give us that amount of money, we can get onto that inflection point and then we can push this business forward. Okay. So telling your business story has to be structured. Okay. You want to flow the story. You want the judges to get the key points that they need to hear. And these 9 headings are effectively the key points that judges will want to hear to keep up with the story and say, okay, the hook, the introduction is interesting. I want to hear more about this. The business inspiration. So why is this business being started? What is the problem being solved here? The solution. The judges want to get excited about it. The customer opportunity. You've done your validation. You know there's a market for it. Competition, you can stand out from the crowd, or you've developed some intellectual property. The team behind it, what you've achieved in traction, what impact you make or intend to make, and crucially, what do you want from Scottish Edge? We find that this structure is tried and tested to get a good, clear story across to our assessor panels. They can follow your story, and if they assess your application the way I do it, is I watch the video, I get all the key information, I'm interested, I'm excited, I'm switched on, and then I'll go to the application form and really get all the detail behind it. And then the assessment can start from there in terms of, the judge thinks this is a good one to go forward, or there may be some feedback for the applicant. So, next slide, please, Stephen. On the website, that is not a live video, but on the website, if you go to the Scottish Edge website, there is some guidance on your 3-minute pitch video. And there's also a link to one of our previous winners, Matuga Rum. So as you can see, Jacine from Matuga Rum is showcasing her products here. And you can go in and watch that video and you can see a good example of a 3-minute pitch video. Now, it doesn't have to be that dramatic. You don't have to have whiskey barrels or rum barrels around you. But think about if you've got a product, how do you showcase that product? How do you let the judges see what is you're creating? If you don't have a product, or you're at prototype stage, or you're even at idea stage, how do you visualize that for the judges? Is it a slide? Is it a 3D printed model of something? How do you bring what the product or service that you're pitching? How do you bring that to life? And if you watch Jacine's video, you'll see that she follows a very similar structure to what we've talked about. You know, that hook, the problem, the solution, the market, the traction, the team, the ask. Those key elements are in almost every Scottish Edge video, certainly for the winners, that you would see. If you go to YouTube, you look for Scottish Edge winner videos, the ones that the clients have willingly published, you will listen and hear that they generally follow a similar kind of structure. You know, that hook at the beginning, the story in the middle, and the ask at the end. So there's some good information there for you. And there's also a link there to change your video to unlisted, as we talked about, because especially if you've got anything that's confidential, you don't want to be putting that in a public forum. You can click it as unlisted, and it's only the Edge assessors that will get to see that video, so it won't be out in the public domain. And if you put it on Vimeo, it'll be password protected as well, so you can protect your video from being published wider. So quick final things for me, just to wrap up before I hand you back to Stephen. Really important that you take your time with your video, plan your story, practice your story, video, take as many takes as you want to take. It doesn't have to be a Spielberg production, but it has to be clear, concise, compelling, and be passionate. And good luck. Stephen?
Cheers, Kev. Thank you so much for that. So some really helpful stuff there from Kev just around the video and help put that together. And one of the things Kevin mentioned was around speaking 150 words a minute. So I think if you look at your application, I think Kevin mentioned about 450 words. That's probably about 10% of your written application. But hopefully from what you've picked up from Kevin there, whilst it's 10% of your written application, it's every bit as valuable as the whole written application. The videos is seeing so many of these applications come in. The video is something that the judges put a lot of focus on in terms of really buying into the person and the people behind the team. That's two key things you get from the videos is that passion from the person. It's being able to see the people behind the team and not just read about them, but actually get a sense of, right, who's the people behind this, and actually to bring a product to life. So that's probably the two key things, and I'm sure you picked that up from Kevin's summary there. So cheers, Kevin. So what we're going to just move on to now is the assessment criteria, and you've got to 23rd of August, you've got to 2 o'clock, you've pressed the button, you've submitted it, and you're now asking yourself, right, what happens next? What actually happens to my application, and how is it judged, and how is it looked at, and what do they look for? So I'll run through that part of it, and this will hopefully give you some elements to think about for when you're doing your application that will enable you to make sure you're covering the right areas, enhancing some areas that you maybe need to sort of build on the story a little bit around. So we've got some sort of sections here that we'll run through. So we'll run through the assessment criteria, but just to give you a sense of the actual process and the structure. So when we get all of our applications in, so if we get 150, 200 applications in on the 23rd of August, we then sort of tend to pull them all together, give them a quick check over, make sure that they meet our eligibility, and then we will start to sort of put them into sector pots effectively. So we will then allocate your application to an assessment day, which is applicable to the sector that you operate in. So we've got 12 assessment days lined up between sort of 5th of September and 22nd of September. So, and we've got judges lined up for all those individual assessment days. We tend to have probably 3 or 4 assessors on each panel, so a split of male-female, split of sector expertise and business expertise, finance expertise. Different things will come onto that panel and bring different sets of skills to that judging panel. Each of the assessors are given your application and your video beforehand, so they'll get that shortly after you apply. That'll be sent out to your respective set of judges, sort of 3 or 4 judges, and then they'll get a chance to look at that, preview that, and check it over and do any research they want to do and pick out some things that they want to highlight. And then those 3 or 4 judges will come together on a specific assessment day, and ourselves at the Edge team will be on with the assessors, and we will then take them through the assessment process that we work towards and go through each application one at a time. Typically look at around 15 applications on a day. something like that. And we'll go through those 15 and the judges will then select the ones to progress to the next stage. For the sort of judging process, what we do, we give the judges a sort of scoring guide, an assessment criteria, and we'll touch a little bit more on that. And the judges then give the applicants a score for each of the 6 areas that we've got on screen there, and we'll touch on them in just a second. And that score then tends to determine whether you progress to the next stage or not. So if you're scoring well in lots of the areas, you've got a better chance of progressing to the next stage. If you're scoring well in 1 or 2 areas and still got a lot of work to do, or not really given a compelling case in some of the other sections, then it's going to be more difficult for you to make it through to the next stage. And then just finally, in terms of confidentiality, it's really important to us. I think Kevin touched on it in terms of the video, but throughout our whole process, we make sure everything is dealt with under confidentiality agreements. So all of our judges sign confidentiality agreements before they are allowed to get involved in the judging process. So any judge that is shared your application, your video with, will be dealt with under confidentiality. Only the 3 or 4 judges allocated to your assessment day in your application will get to see your application and video, and then we don't share it anywhere else out with that. So what that does is gives 2 things. It hopefully gives you confidence that through this competition process we are sort of looking after your business sensitive information properly and making sure that we deal with that in the right manner. But hopefully also it will give you a bit of confidence as an applicant that you can share as much information as you can about your business story without compromising anything. We don't want you to do that. We want you to be able, as comfortable as possible, sharing as much as you can so that the judges can make a fair assessment of your application and video, so that they're not left with lots of questions because a lack of information and you just haven't been able to share information. So hopefully it will give you some confidence. And in 19 rounds of delivering Scottish Edge, we've never had a data issue or a confidentiality breach or anything like that. So again, hopefully that gives you a bit of confidence in the judging process that we follow. Again, probably not so much for this stage, but maybe for our next workshop, when we get to our final for our Scottish Edge category, when it is more of a public event, again, if there's issues around that in terms of confidentiality, we will work individually with each business to make sure you're not seeing anything on stage that could compromise with our watching audience there. So again, we'll work with applicants further down the line with that one. But this section is mainly going to focus just on those assessment criteria. So that's what happens to your application, gets shared with the judges, and when they come together, the Scottish Edge team will manage that process and take them through those 6 areas that we've got on the screen here: value proposition, team, etc., etc. And then we'll work with the judges to say, right, what score and assessment do we give them on each of these areas? The Scottish Edge team, at no point in the competition do we judge. I think Kevin mentioned a couple of things about judging. That was prior to joining the team. So where there's been judging, we don't judge throughout the process, and it's all done independently with our judges. If there's times when we maybe need to support the judging part of it, but all of the judging is done independently, and we are there to manage the process to make sure it's done independently. So we are there to capture all the information for the judges and the scores and all that, and this is what we sort of manage the process and how we take the judges through that. So we'll look at, first of all, value proposition. So this is the first section that you'll be asked on your application form after the funding bit, which is a tick box and asking you how much you apply. The first key questions that you'll get to on your application portal is around value proposition section. And that ties in with exactly what the judges will assess you on. So you'll get asked a number of questions in that section. It's around basically the generics around your business and how you're delivering that business and why you're delivering it and what makes you stand out. And what we then get to with the judges is similar types of conversations. So we'll take the judges through the different sections and we'll say, right, value proposition, how does this stand out in terms of the assessment standards? So what we're looking for in that section is, first and foremost, from a judge's perspective, is do they understand what your business is? For me, it's probably the worst mistake that any applicant can make in an Edge application or a video or however you're putting it all together, is at the end of reading your application, watching your 3-minute video, the judges still say, I don't know what it is. I don't understand it, I don't know how it looks or what it does or anything like that. That's probably, and that makes it really difficult for the judges to then have a positive outlook on the other parts of the section when they really don't get a handle of what your business is from the outset. So there's a couple of questions in there. There's a short summary question in your application, and there's a more detailed question to give you an opportunity to bring your product to an understanding and succinctly tell your story of what your product is. Kevin also mentioned about bringing your product or service to life on your video. So whilst you've got 3 minutes to tell a business story, you've also got the opportunity on the video to showcase your product. So it's probably the perfect opportunity. If you've got a physical product, you can show it on the video. If you've got a service you deliver or it's a technology offering, or there's no harm in building in some visuals from that into your video, just to help the assessors get a sense of what it is you do. So you can use your video as a really good way of bringing your product or service to life and making sure that the judges understand it. There's also an attachment section. I think someone asked a question in the chat function that you can put some visuals in there as well. We don't want lots of financials in there. We won't accept anything like that, but you can put some visuals in there that help enhance that business case. So that's the first and foremost thing. Make sure the judges understand what it is. We're also asking about the competition. So every business, no matter what you do, will have some form of competition, whether that's directly because there's products similar to what you do in the market, or indirectly because you're having to get customers to move from what they use to use your product because it's different and better. So there is competition for everyone, and we want applicants to demonstrate they have an understanding of that competition. They know who else is out there operating the market, whether that be some of the large names out there or it's some smaller players in a similar market. Just give confidence to the judging panel. Use that word a lot, because what we want you to give the judges is confidence that you've got a really good handle on this business and you're well placed to take it forward and make it a success. And a way to do that is by knowing who else is in operating in your sector or your market. So there's no harm in being able to tell the judges. It's not as if they're going to sort of just write off your business because they've got lots of competition. As long as you do it in a really a way that demonstrates, yeah, we know there's competition here, but here's how we're going to stand out from the competition, or here's the particular customer segment we're going after, or so it just building on that story to say how you're going to go about that. So that's really important. Demonstrate your competition, and then the next bit is about your point of difference. Again, Kevin touched on it in the video. It's about what makes you stand out as different. Why? Ask yourself a question of why would a customer want your product more than the other ones that are in the market already? So ask yourself that question, and that's a really good way of you getting to start to understand what's making your product different. And if you've done some of that customer validation and that research, which again we'll touch on and Kevin touched on as well, that also can give you a really good sense of why customers like your product better than the other things that are already available. So that's about value proposition. We also ask you a little bit about your key risks. Like, what is your challenges as you're trying to build this business and take it forward, and what's the key hurdles you need to go over as you're trying to sort of grow, and a little bit of thinking about it. How are you going to do that? When are you going to do it? So this isn't about trying to find businesses from an age perspective that have got no risks, because that's not what we're about. We want to support early stage businesses where there's an element of risk and that there's got a plan to overcome that. We want you to be able to articulate that in a way that, yeah, here's the challenges we've faced, but here's the sort of plans we've got to overcome them, and Edge will help us overcome them as well. The other part that we've built into that section as well, value proposition, is, which is quite important, if you have applied before to Scottish Edge, you've had feedback in the past, we're giving you an opportunity to let us know, right, what have you done on the back of a previous application? How have you grown since you last applied? What have you done to sort of work on any feedback you got? So anything that's just giving you a chance to give the judges a sense of, right, we've got feedback previously because we weren't successful, but here's what we've done just now. And there's also a question in there about your highlights. Lots of this is about risks and competition, we also want to give you an opportunity to tell us what's the really good things that are happening in your business, because there will be lots of those. So what's the highlights, what's the positives, what's the things that you're really proud of? So there's a section in there to give us a sense of, right, here's the things that are really good in what we've done. So that value proposition, quite a lot in there, but it gives us a really good feel for what the business is and why you're doing it and who else is in the market, how you're going to stand out. So that's a key thing about value proposition. And then we'll go into a discussion with the judges about your team. So from what you've presented in your application and your video, so the team part comes across quite strongly across both. Throughout the assessment, your video and your application go hand in hand. They're looked at and together jointly. So it's not as if there needs to be we'll watch a video first and look at the application. We can't do both at the same time. So that's generally the way we do it. But they're both of equal importance, and all the information from the video and your application are brought together into your assessment part of it. So the team part comes across strong in the video because we get to see who's in the team. It also comes across in the application because we ask some questions specifically around who's in the team, what's the background, so what's their experience, why are they the right people to deliver on this. And that's about, firstly, we ask about the key founders, and then we ask a separate question about if you've got a team of people also working in the business. So you can tell us about their experience, what role they do, why they're right for that role. Don't worry if you don't have additional team members, that's okay. Most businesses that apply to Edge are 1 or 2 people. You get exceptions that have started to build a team, but majority of businesses are 1 or 2 people. And again, there's a question also in the application about, right, who's your network of support? And that's the important bit that helps you enhance that team part. There's a question in there, do you work with Business Gateway? You're working with Royal Bank Accelerator, Elevator, any other of these sort of support networks that are out there? Who's your mentor? Who can you call on for support when you've got a challenging sort of period or time that you need to overcome? Who's going to help you overcome that? So those things are really crucial, and that helps you build up that team. There's also a bit in there about gaps in the team. I think Kevin touched on it as well, and we want to understand, right, what is your plans for this business going forward? What's the key skills that you may, as a key person in the business, not have? And how are you going to fill those gaps, and when are you going to fill them? And will the Edge support help you get there, or it'll be further funding further down the line? So that whole team part of it, so you might be sitting there going, it's only me, but it's not only you, there's lots more to the team part of it. And the team, the people who, it might just be an individual solo founder, but those businesses that have got a network around them and support around them, they're the ones that will probably be able to articulate a stronger story in terms of their overall business as well. So that's section 2 around the team. So section 3 is about impact. And again, there's 3 questions in this box, I think. One's about social or economic impact, what you're doing in your community, what you're doing to support people. One's around environmental impact or net zero impact. So what you're doing as a business to make a positive change to the planet. And then there's a question around circular economy, specifically around that part of it. So this is all about, we've got some knowledge to say that a lot of funding decisions now are predominantly, all of them will have an element of impact measurement in there. So you need to start as an early stage business. This is about trying to get you to think about just a little bit more than, like, here's the sales growth or net profit we can achieve. This is to try and get you to think a bit wider and the difference that you can make to people on the planet. So this section is about what you're doing just now, but more importantly about your intentions as a business. What can you build into this business? What values have you set in your business that you can use to showcase to your customers? Because they will want to work with you more if you've got strong impact deliverables. Also potential funders, all those people who will play a real important part in helping your business go forward. If you can demonstrate to them you've got real strong values and credentials in there about impact, that will help you with those sort of conversations and discussions. So we ask you about those key elements, and we just want you to think about it and talk about the things you do just now, and also the things you would intend to do in the future as the business grows. So you've got social, environmental. There's a specific question about circular economy. We are working with Zero Waste Scotland, who we partner with for a Circular Economy Award. And that question helps us determine the ones that are strong contenders for that. But there's so much more to circular economy than just being able to take a product and say, right, if we put that in the right recycling bin or in the right way, it's going to get turned into something else and be used. There's so much more around technology businesses and being able to use rental models and lots of different things you can build into your circular economy elements. We done a workshop with them recently for the last round, and we'll put a link. I don't know if Jack, if you've got the link there, we can share in the chat. If not, we'll get that sent out to everyone. We're also in talks with them just now about doing another workshop, hopefully in the next week or two before the application window closes, that we might do jointly with a business that works on sort of net zero stuff as well, that will give businesses a chance to come on and find out more of the things you can put in that question section. So there's bits in there about that. The other part that we ask you in there about is just about how you're going to measure it. So it's okay talking about impact and talking about the good things you're going to do, but how do you, going forward, how are you going to demonstrate that to customers or funders or whoever it may be? How are you going to do that part of it? So it's about just thinking about, here's what we want to do, or here's what we do just now, here's what we want to do, but here's how we're going to report on all the good things we're doing. So it's about getting you to think about those. So that's section 3, and the more you can present a strong case on that, again, that will help showcase the good things that you're looking to do. Section 4, when we're talking to the judges about customer focus, and again, Kevin's touched on quite a bit about that. It's just so important as an early stage business that you validate your customer demand. It's okay having a great idea. It's okay you as a person thinking, I could do this in building something or developing something, or putting together a sort of service. But if you've not tested any potential market of demand for it, then it's really hard to sort of offer any substance to say, yeah, people will buy this, people will pay for this product or service. And because of that, we think we'll grow this business to quite a successful business. So you need to get out there speaking to people, and the more you can do that, and that can be done for any stage of business. If it's really early stage and you're sort of just got an idea, there's nothing wrong with doing some surveys, just going out to some, speaking to people, maybe Business Gateway or something like that, to say, how can I do some validation of this? How can I build up some sort of credibility around customer interest in this? So it's probably the most common phrase that we use in the feedback comments that we give out to businesses is, could do a little bit more customer validation to strengthen the case. So, and it's probably one of the key reasons that is a differentiator between getting through to the next stage and being asked to do a little bit more than come back in the next round, because we think you've got something really good, but you just need to do a little bit more and then come back. So no matter what stage you're at, I think if you think about your customers and what you can do and how you can validate that in terms of quantifiable numbers and say, we've spoken to X amount of people and here's the feedback. If you are a little bit further in the journey and you're already got customers and you're selling your product and you've got sort of, this is your opportunity to tell us why those customers want to work with you. Who's your next set of customers? What's the feedback you're getting? You can also be quite creative around your video and get some of your customers in the video talking about, this is why we want to work with us. This is why we want to work with this company, because they do this, this, and this, and it's so much better than the other service we had, a product we had. So there's lots of things you can do to really bring that customer focus to life. So that's a really, really important section, and so one that needs a bit of thought and maybe a little bit more work before you submit your application. The next bit is about business growth. And in this section, we ask you some pretty basic financial projections. We ask you about any sales that you've made just now, or if you're not trading just now, when you're likely to start trading, and then your projected turnover in years 1, 2, and 3, and what the profit will be and how many staff you'll have. So some basic information. And what we're looking for there is just a bit of realism around the plan and to get a sense of the ambition for the business as well as you grow over the next 1, 2, or 3 years. So we want you to think about a bit more longer term and think about, right, here's what we can actually achieve. We want to get a sense of the balance between the realism and ambition. Is that achievable? Does that seem right? Is it something that's really well thought out and considered and planned? We get quite a few occasions where the financials, even on that basic form, just don't make sense because the number of staff that you might be projecting against the turnover and profit you've got, and if you're paying those staff minimum wage, it just doesn't tie in with the figures presented. So there's things that just stand out as looking not right on those figures. And then that just puts the judges in a position where they go, not sure this business has got a handle on the financials, even this sort of basics of projections. So we want you to present those figures in a really well thought out and considered way. But the important part of that section is the text box that comes below those figures that you present. And those text boxes really ask you how you're going to do it. So if you say in year one, we are going to deliver, we're going to achieve X amount of sales, we're going to get this profit, we're going to have this staff, what we're effectively asking to tell us how you're going to do that. So you're not trading just now, but you're going to do this in year one. Tell us how that works, how that happened, how many customers they need, what stage of your discussions at with those customers, what's the cost of sales, do you need to manufacture a product? If so, where are you doing it? Do you need to ship a product from somewhere? What's the cost of that? So there's just things that we want to get a real handle on that you're thinking, yeah, this is what we're going to achieve and this is how we're going to do it. So we want you to present a really robust case around your plans in there. And for Edge, we're not looking for growth that's exponential. Yeah, those businesses are great, but they're very, 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 very rare. So we just want businesses that have got realistic, steady growth, and they're just looking to do really good things. We've set a minimum threshold at Edge. It was kind of we touched on it earlier this morning on the sort of eligibility. We're looking for a minimum threshold of about £200,000 turnover in the next 3 years of projections. So if you're thinking as a business, right, when we start trading and within our first 3 years, we're going to do a cumulative, so that's within those 3 years combined, £200,000 of turnover. That gets you to the sort of minimum sort of level that we're looking for within Scottish Edge. But again, if you're looking to have growth way beyond that, and it's going to be millions and millions of pounds, and we've seen businesses that have projected that and put that in applications, if you can't back that up with a bit of substance, the judges are not going to be impressed by these high figures. They're going to be more impressed with a business that's given steady growth. It might be a lot lower numbers, but steady growth and are backing it up with a really robust story. So think about your growth journey. And then the last thing that we ask about, and it's the same section on the application form, which we'll talk about with the judges, is utilisation of funding. So for this, we then ask you to tell us how much you're applying for. You put that in at the outset. So again, for Scottish Edge, anything up to £100,000 you can apply for the grant and loan split. Social Enterprise Edge, up to £75,000 you can apply for. Young Edge and Wildcard Edge, obviously the awards go up to £20,000. It's probably best to present a £10,000 case. That's where most of the awards are. And then if you are deemed the best business in there, you will be awarded £20,000 and you can tell us afterwards how much you're going to spend or what you would spend the additional £10,000 on. So that makes it easier for the judges. If you think Young Age or Wildcard, you want to put an application and say, yeah, we want to win 20,000 and here's how we'll spend it. That's fine, but it won't be looked at any more positively in terms of the £20,000 award than one going for 10,000 if they're deemed a better business with better growth potential. So you've got the choice of the amount, but you tell us how much you're applying for, and then you break down what you're going to spend that money on. And that part's really important because you're assessed on in those areas. And what the judges are looking for there is, do these things seem the right things to spend the money on for the stage the business is at? And do they look like the right things to help this business grow and reach the next milestone that they want to achieve? So that's probably the way to think about this, is it the right things for the right time with the business. So you can effectively spend Scottish Edge money on anything as long as it's legal. The only thing we will not support is a founder's salary. So the people who are already the key founders of the business or key members of staff, if they're in a full-time role already, we won't cover their salary. So this is about growth. It's not about just sustaining what's already there. This is about to help the business grow. Growing the team and bringing new members of staff in and bringing expertise in. If you've identified gaps and you need a new marketing person or a sales person, that's a perfectly viable reason and a common use of the money for Scottish Edge, and we'll be more than happy to support that. We'll support IP, we'll support marketing, anything that you think you need to grow your business. For Wildcard, if it's about helping get a prototype or doing more customer discovery work, things like that are a really good use of the money. So think about what you spend it on, and then you break it down into those 3 or 4 or 5 key areas that you want to use the money for. Whilst you can apply for up to 100,000, if you're thinking about the Scottish Edge, what we ask you to apply for is what you need, what you think you really need to take this business forward. Because if you ask for £100,000 and give us a really good breakdown for 70,000 of that and say, oh, the other 30 we'll use for other things that come up, then the judges are not going to look at that and go, that's a well thought out plan. Let's give them the money. They're going to say they should have asked for £70,000. They'll either win because they're a really good business, but they'll only get 70, or they'll not win because they've just not presented a really strong case. So think about how much you're asking for, what you're asking for, and how you would spend that. The other thing that we ask in that section is, what else do you need on top of Scottish Edge to allow you to achieve your ambitions for the. We know that Scottish Edge is not the be all and end all. It will be a part of what will help your funding needs. But if you're looking to grow and be really ambitious, you might need further funding. So we want to get a sense of your understanding of what else will you need, when will you need it, and if that's ongoing just now, how far down the line is that? What part will Edge play? What part will the investors play? So different things like that. So there's some questions in there as well around the sort of other funding needs as well. So a couple of final things. So that's the assessment criteria. That's what the judges will assess you on. And that's really what you're asked about as well. So there's lots of synergy about the questions you're asked and the discussions we have with the judges. So I'll finish off a couple of top tips and some of the support that's out there, and then happy to take any questions in the time I've got left, and we can cover off some questions if there's any that come through the chat. So there's lots of support out there. We've covered quite a lot in today's session, but there's more support out there on our website. So there's some information about our assessment criteria. That's all there. So that's all transparent, and you can go in and actually see the full assessment criteria that we give to the judges and all the sections we ask them to look at and things to consider. So you can go in that and you can have it in front of you when you're doing your application. There's a sample application form online. We've made some changes to our application portal this round. We've sort of broken down some of the questions. So there's not an exact replica of an application matches what we're asking you to fill in. But there's a sample application from a couple of rounds ago that gives you some detailed questions that you can see the depth of information that previous Edge winners have gone into. So this is just sample questions from a mixture of winners from previous rounds that you can have a look at and see what they've got into, and given a sense of, like, this is a level of detail we need to get to. There's also a blank Word document application form that a lot of people like to download and work on rather than working on the portal all the time. So it means you can share it easily with mentors or other team members or anything like that, and you can all play a part in that. So that's there to download. You can work on that and fill in your application. The only thing to bear in mind is we can't accept applications on a Word document. We need it done on the portal. So if you are going to work on the Word document and fill in your answers and work on that, we need to make sure you copy everything over to the portal ahead of the deadline. Do it that way. I've also touched on some of this. There's 3-minute videos. There's a 10 or so Scottish Edge 3-minute videos from past winners that you can have a look at. So you can just look out, check some of them out. There's a contact us page. There's some case studies from past winners. There's also the competition brochure that just gives you all you need to know. There's 20 odd pages of information about age there. If there's anything you're not sure of, you can download that document and the information will be in there. The other thing you've got as well, we're here as an Edge team to support you. So we're here to help. As I said earlier on, we don't judge at any point through the process. So our role as a team is really to help the businesses and give them as much support as possible to present the best case to the judges and get them to a position where they're going to hopefully impress enough to get through to the next stage and then go on and become one of our winners. So lots of support there. So please utilise that and ask any questions of the team if there's anything you're not sure of. A couple of things just to finish off. I'm not going to run through these in details. It's just some tips that we've got and picked up as we go along. I've mentioned probably most of them. So again, just make sure the judges understand your business. That's about making it clear. Make sure you, as you're going through, know the assessment criteria. We've touched on it there. It's all on our website. So make sure you refer to that as you're going through it. We've touched on the point of difference in competition. Financial forecasting, we covered that off, just about being realistic and what that journey looks like and how you're going to deliver on it. Again, customer validation, and that's about real customer engagement. What you'll spend the money on, the impact intentions. A couple of things there just at the bottom. Don't leave the assessors with lots of unanswered questions. What we mean by that is we can look through an application form in a video, and there can be parts in there you go, I wish I had a little bit more detail. And that can be detrimental to your application and your chances of getting through. What we can't do at that time is we can't pick the phone up and say, judges have looked at your application form, or I wish you could tell us a wee bit more about this or this or this or something like that. So you need to, as you're going through it, keep asking yourself the same question. A really good example of that is we see lots of applications that tell us, oh, we've got a product and we've got interest from John Lewis or Tesco or whoever that retailer may be. We've got an interest from a type of customer, and it kind of leaves it at that on the application. And we see that quite often, things like that. What the judges will say will be, that's great. It's great you've got interest from John Lewis, but what stage is that at? Is that just you've sent them a sample and you're waiting to hear back? Or is it you're actually got a meeting with one of their buyers next week, or you're going to present to them next week? So it's thinking about, like, what's the next question? What would someone ask if I was to tell them that statement? What would someone ask? So your application is your chance to make sure you cover as much detail as possible. It's different judges at the next stage. It's different judges at the final. So there's no point holding anything back, because if you hold anything back, then it might mean you don't get through to the next stage. So just make sure you cover all as much detail as you can and give a really good representation of your business. The other thing is double check your form. This is, again, a representation of you as a business. The Scottish Edge application, it's not an exam and it's not a spelling test. Spelling mistakes or errors or anything, they're normal. There's probably been some in the slides that we've used today. But these things happen, that's just human nature. But what is really, really apparent is when you go through an application and you see something that's just rushed, and you've maybe worked on an application form on Word, and then things have been copied over to the wrong questions and the wrong sections, and things just are littered with sort of basic errors. And that just makes it harder for the judges to submit or assess it properly when they're trying to work out what the answers to certain questions are. So give it a quick double check. Make sure you're happy with it before, because this is you represent your business. Make sure you're happy with it before you submit it over to the actual competition. A couple of final things just on the video. Again, I've seen most of these things. Videos about you. You want to get a passionate, believable entrepreneur. I think Kevin mentioned it. People buy people. People buy into people. So as much as you can give your application form and really good information on that, really good detail about your business plan and your growth and your customer discussions and all these things, the judges still want to be able to see you and hear a little bit from you just about that passion. Bring your product to life, Again, you can involve your team. It doesn't need to just be one person standing. If there's 2 or 3 of you in the team, you can do that. If there's 3 or 4 of you in the team, you don't need 3 or 4 of you in the video. You can just have one. It's whatever works for you, whatever's going to be the best way of getting your story across. Bring your customers in. You can intertwine it with visuals of products and footage from other things that you might have done, other video footage you might have. So you can do as much as you want. But as Kevin said, we don't want Hollywood quality. This isn't a video making competition. This is a business competition, and the video format is about a platform for you to tell a business story or showcase a product or showcase yourself as an entrepreneurial leader. At Scottish Edge, we don't ask or encourage anyone to spend any money on a video. That's not what this is about. It's not about going out and spending money and getting a video team to do it for you. It's not going to make any difference. It's about your business and the story you can tell. I've talked about the security bit about unlisted. If you can use that option in YouTube, please don't use the private setting on YouTube. You can use private on Vimeo, but please don't use it on YouTube, because then you would need to send us your passwords and sign-in details, and we don't want that. And again, similar to your application, watch it back before you submit it. And the key things to watch back for is get someone to check it. Is the sound quality and the visual quality, is it jumping? Can we see it all? Does it cut off halfway through it when you're not expecting that? Can we hear the people? So just make sure it is legible, and that's fine. So that's Scottish Edge. I know that's quite a lot of information. We've taken you through quite a bit of detail there. Hopefully some of it's been helpful. Hopefully it will encourage you to know that we're here to help and support, and businesses do win. This isn't a sort of dragon's den where we're trying to catch you out and make it difficult. We've got a pot of funding that we want to give out, and that funding is there to be used and find the best businesses. So please be encouraged to know that any type of business, every type of business has got an opportunity. Scottish Edge, as long as you meet eligibility. That's our challenge for you. This is our winners from the last round. They stood on stage in June. There's 40 odd businesses represented on stage there. There's a mix. Every single business is different. Every business is from a different part of the country. They're all doing different things, but they've all had a common goal in winning Scottish Edge. And what we want to do is see if you can be part of that Edge winners group by putting in a great application, really impressing the judges for round 20 and coming away with one of our prizes later in the year. So thanks again for joining us. Happy to take any questions if there's things. I know a lot's been dealt with in the chat. I'll come to Jack if there's anything particular in chat that we want to cover off. And if there's anything that you want more support on, lots of information on our website, or you can get in touch with ourselves. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll see if there's any questions, and we can see if Jack's around anyway for other things.
Hiya.
Hi Marianne, hi there.
Hi. I don't know how to put my hand up on the thing. I can never find it.
That's fine that way.
I had asked Jack a great question. He'd answered it for me, but it's a huge big deal, and I really want to make sure that I get it right. Yeah. And if it's not this year, prepare for next year, so I'm not wasting, everybody's time. But I currently run a social enterprise that I founded 10 years ago.
Okay.
From that, and from all my experience and my stats and my feedback, there's a part of that social enterprise that needs to grow nationally.
Okay.
I feel in the communities that I speak to for children with additional support needs, it needs to grow nationally. What we do here is really good, and I'm doing it in 2 locations. Now, what I'm going to do is I have broke that bit off because I want to leave the social enterprise as a legacy in my own community to the people who run it, and I've been teaching them to be the directors and managers of that so that I can pull away and leave that. Okay. And I want to build this part of it nationally. So I'm really confused because it is a different company. It is registered in 2019. I haven't been trading on that company, but a lot of the information I'm putting in my Edge application comes from, the customer feedback, what I've experienced before, my stats, you know, all the different bits at the back of that. So it looks as if it clashes, and it's to try and make sure that that becomes clear that, you know, this is a totally different entity, but and it needs to be, because I've thought over the last, you know, 4 or 5 years, can we keep it as the one entity, but locally, you know, what, it's just all quite confusing. Sorry, I'm blathering.
No, Marianne, I totally get it. We actually had a similar case in the last round. Very similar circumstances to what you're doing just now. So in terms of eligibility, it's based on the applying company. So if you've broken that off and set up a new company and you've gone since 2019, so as long as you apply under that company, then eligibility-wise, that's fine. In terms of background information and the information you put in your application, ultimately we will mainly be interested in what you're doing with the new entity and what the plans are for the new entity and the growth projections for the new entity, and how that will grow in the team and all that. So that's the whole purpose, or the main part of your application should be around that. The fact that you've got the previous social enterprise and you've got experience in that and different things, you can weave that into your application and use that as we've got lots of experience, and because of the work we've done here, this is why we're doing this, because what our customers are telling us. But then within the story, there needs to be a bit of a clear distinction between it. So that's how you position that, and you'll probably know, because you will have made that decision because of a good reason.
Yeah.
Get that good reason across in your application or video if it's easier to tell it. Then the judges will be able to understand why you've done it and why you're looking to grow it in a separate way. So absolutely fine to apply, but it's just making sure you don't dominate your application with what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Or around.
I'm just trying to make sure I keep that clear in everything that I'm saying. I've actually wrote it out, the application, and then I've just scrapped it and I've started again. So, but yeah, that's fine. I understand that. I think I'm in the right track.
If you look at it from a judge's perspective, they don't want to confuse, and they'll look at it as well. We're not funding previous social enterprise, so we don't want to know too much about that. It's good to know the background and why this is born out of it and your experience of it. But they're looking to say, we want to fund this new entity. So why should we fund this? That's a question you ask. Why should we fund this new entity
that's fine.
If you think about it that way. But if there's anything you're going through, please just get in touch separately, and we can have an offline chat around.
Who was the example? Maybe I could go back and have a wee look at who that was.
Well, probably if you drop us a wee email, and we can do that and we can let you know.
Right, okay, thanks, Stephen.
No worries.
Thank you.
Hello, Stephen.
Yes, hi Connor.
Hi there, how you doing? Thanks for the presentation, very informative. Just have a question about the which competition one should apply for in the beginning. So considering the Young Edge competition, and I haven't seen the stats that having the best success rate, and considering applying for that. But what are the chances? Are there any chances? Is it quite strict of an application being moved up or down a tier? So let's say somebody applied for Scottish Edge main competition. Could the judges decide that actually is better suited to the Young Edge or the wildcard?
Yeah, Connor,
similarly in the other direction.
Yeah, Connor, great question. So previously, when you applied for Edge, if anyone had applied in the past, it used to be you would apply for several categories. So you can apply, we're eligible for Scottish Edge, also Young Edge, and also Wildcard Edge. So effectively, our business could be considered for all. So, and then what happened, the judges would determine which one was the best suited for them, and they would go down that route. What we've decided this round is we want applicants to make a more informed choice and say, right, we want to focus on Young Edge, for example. But what we will do is we will give the judges a bit of autonomy to say, that business is going for Scottish Edge, but do you know what? They are really early in terms of this. It would have been better in Wildcard Edge. At that stage, we'll have a bit of a discussion with the judges, and we'll make an informed decision as to whether that's the right thing to do, or whether we'll come back and say to the applicant, probably should have applied for Wildcard Edge. Maybe in the next round you should come back in. So It is an option. So it is there as an option, but it'll be a judge's choice rather than us at the Edge team or an applicant's choice. We'll do it that way.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Stephen.
Yep.
Hi there. I've actually got two parts of a question, but one of them was actually answered with Mayanne, so that's fine. The other one is, so to actually get my business up and going is going to take considerably more than 100,000.
Okay.
The Scottish Edge it's a key point for two parts. One, it takes the business plan and the concept and actually it gives it credit. And then two, obviously the 100,000 can then be used to then bring in further investment and obviously to set the business up, which I've indicated that in the application. I've actually had to submit my application yesterday.
Yeah.
So I've actually gone back to work. So I'm not home until the 25th now.
Okay.
So you're
in already. Okay.
I ended up improvising on the video. Kind of took you on a journey rather than an interview style.
Yeah, that's fine, Mark. There's no right or wrong with these as long as you can get the key message across and things like that. That's absolutely fine.
One of the things is, so say for example, you, like obviously I've submitted it. So say for example, I did get the 100,000.
Okay.
And like I say, the goal is slightly higher than that.
Yep.
So then I'd be then looking for either investment from a bank or a mix between a bank and private investment,
okay,
to then get to where I need to be.
Yep.
See, with the loan element, the one thing I don't want to do is then end up with this massive loan, okay, if I can't secure the further investment. So okay, can that be, how could that be worked out so that you don't end up with, do you know what I mean, this massive loan and then you can't secure further investment?
Okay. So basically, a couple of things, Mark. First thing, just on one of your points, Edge, we know Edge isn't the be all and end all for a lot of businesses. You do need, a lot of businesses will need more than what Edge can provide. And I think you mentioned there around the credibility part that comes with Edge is quite appealing to the investment community in Scotland.
Yeah.
So if businesses are looking for more than Edge can offer, then going through that journey and getting a Edge winner's badge can help open up doors sometimes with other investors. So that's part of it. In terms of the breakdown, in terms of the loan part of it, so obviously that's an element of the award that is sort of standard, the way that it's broken down, 70% loan, 30% grant. But there's some aspects of that. So if you were to go and raise money from investors and then, for example, if you wanted to pay off the Edge loan within, so if you pay it off within 2 years, it becomes it's an interest-free loan. If you go and raise an investment from that, then you can pay it off within 2 years and it's interest-free. So that we've built that in.
Right, okay.
Examples that you've sort of given us. A business goes on and raises money. So those things are there. There's some flexible options to try and work with you. And again, if you do win Edge in the investment community, have seen that you've won Edge and or want to work with you because of Edge, they'll know there's a loan part to the award anyway.
Yeah.
So that comes as a surprise to them. So as long as you're having those discussions with them, and the loan's not there to be designed to be a burden on you, it's there to help you push that business forward to get you more ready for investors. So that's you can look at it that way. If you were to take that funding in, it'll help you maybe deliver those key inflection points or milestones that you need to meet to become investor ready. So that's the whole point of it. It's a lot of time it's about getting businesses who are maybe too early for investors. Edge money helps them get ready for investors, and then you can either pay it off, or if the investors are happy with keeping it there, because it is probably as soft a terms as you can get in terms of any sort of loan funding, then you can look at it that way. So Kevin, did you have any more you wanted to add on that?
No, just to kind of reiterate the fact that once the loan is issued, Mark, the loan sits with a limited company. So if I get your question correct, you were thinking, what happens if you win Scottish Edge, you go out to raise investment and you don't get investment? Well, the loan is still there, especially if the money's been spent, then the loan would have to be repaid.
Yeah.
And a very rare, and I don't think it's ever happened in Scottish Edge, if the loan hasn't been spent and you haven't raised investment, you could potentially return it. Now, that's never happened in Edge, but I'm just thinking outside the box here. But once the loan is issued and once the money is spent, then a limited company has to repay that loan back to Scottish Edge, if that answers your question.
I don't see it actually happening, but it's just one of those, let's find out before actually.
Yes. Yeah, just be aware of what your options are.
It's more of a what if. So what would be the options if it didn't happen?
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
Things can happen. I mean, especially with the economy and things, people may decide, right, we're not actually giving out investments at this time because of. So it's more just to find out the sort of.
Oh, it's a valid point, Mark. I think it's a good question to ask. And what we tend to do is with all of our winners, when they're announced as winners, we'll sit down with our team afterwards and we'll talk through that funding package and the wider support and take into account various plans that you've got in terms of investment and when you're looking to get that on board and where you are with those discussions. So all of those things will be discussed on an individual basis with the various winners at the end of each round.
Perfect. All right, thanks very much.
Cheers. Any other questions? Jack, was there anything that came up from the chat that we needed to share with the wider group? Or?
Yeah, there was a couple, but I think some asked themselves there. So I think one other one that popped up was what evidence of sole trader status is accepted. So I think that's kind of more briefly around a bit of clarity around sole traders, partnerships, registered companies, and the differences there and things. I think that's one that comes up quite regularly.
Probably the key thing that we'll focus on further down the line, we do some due diligence checks. The key thing is when we go to release funding, it's probably the easiest way to do it. When we release funding, we check that it's a business bank account. So we can only release funding into business bank accounts. So we can check the status then that there is a business bank account operational and active. So, but again, there's just other things we can check individually, but majority of the time that is just making sure there's the business standard business things set up for someone to operate.
Perfect, thank you. And another one was if a business was to raise a large amount of money between applying and the final, would they then be disqualified, or would it affect their eligibility? You know that there's a cap to how much you can have raised.
Yeah, so at the moment, so any business, so this is some guidance from our Scottish Edge board. So you've got any business who has raised over £250,000, either at the time of applying or right through to when they're announced as a winner, which will be in December. They will only be eligible for a loan-only award at Scottish Edge. So there'll be no additional grant funding paid out to any business that's raised only £250,000 of private investment. If a business has raised over £500,000, then they're technically not eligible. So that's of private investment. If in that interim period between applying and getting to the final and winning an award, they raise in excess of £500,000, then they more than likely wouldn't be able to continue in the competition. So we've built that into the sort of guidelines now. So that should be in our eligibility. If you see that when you apply, if you raise, so that investment period goes right up to the time of awarding, announcing our award winners, which will be early December.
Perfect, thanks. And I can see that Lynn's got her hand up, so I'll just do mine quickly, then that's me finished. So the other last one was just is there a time limit for when the money has to be spent, the grant loan amount? Is there a time limit for when that has to be spent? Yeah, so when a business is announced as a winner, we work with them quite quickly to get their winner's contract put together, and we quite a quick, slick process for getting the funding out to you. The contract states a 12-month period to spend the money, and what we do, we release the money in tranches. So we give sort of half the money up front for Scottish Edge and Social Enterprise Edge, and then once you can demonstrate you're spending it on the right things and you're not going out and spending it on things that
that are not applicable to your business. As long as you can give us evidence that you're spending it on the right things, we will then release the second half. So as long as that first half is spent in the first 12 months, then that's fine for us, and we can then look to release the second half for you. And it's the same for Young and Wildcard. But we also understand, and we've got flexibility, the fact that things often change for early stage businesses. So whilst that's built into their contract, we've on again in a small number of occasions, we have extended that 12-month period for businesses. So we want to make sure you get the money at the time that's right for you and spend it on the things that are going to help grow your business. So yeah, 12-month period, but there's some flexibility around that if need be, as long as there's a really solid reason for it. Cheers, Jack. Lynn, did you have a question?
Right, okay, it's serious for me, basically, because of the fact I've come across this recently. It's an ageism thing, okay? Particularly when we're going to be doing the video. I noticed with the picture that you showed of the winners from round 19, the majority of them are considerably younger than myself. So although you can't automatically say discrimination would be in place, there's always that feeling, because you wouldn't believe what was said to me over the course of a week ago with regards to what you're doing that at your age, you know. So it is, as much as I can turn around and say Nancy Pelosi's 82 and in Taiwan at the moment, you know, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so we're, as I said,
really serious.
Yes, Lynn, I totally agree with it, and it's something we've discussed quite a lot as a team. We know whether it's right or wrong, we've got a young age category, and that probably distills the picture a little bit, because we've got 14 young age winners in that photograph. But we've got a number of winners who have won who are in their 70s, who have won Scottish Edge, who are sort of multiple time entrepreneurs that have come through and won. So we've got winners ranging from, I think our youngest winner was 19 at the time of winning, and I think our oldest winner was 72 at the time of winning. So I don't have the stats to hand, but we said at the outset, we're open to all, and there's no a disadvantage in terms of an age barrier in any way in Scottish Edge, or we wouldn't allow that to happen from our judging perspective. So hopefully, I know it's difficult to quantify without giving you stats, and I don't have the stats to hand, but we have had a number of winners who are maybe went through a career and finished up and retired, and then come back and set up a business and won Scottish Edge. So I'm just, I don't know if Kev, can you think of any off the top of your head that recently?
Yeah, we had a finalist in the last round. Forgive me, I don't know their ages, but I'm 50, so I can have a rough guess. They were probably a bit older than me, probably in their 60s, late 70s, a couple, and they pitched really, really well at the final. They made it all the way to the final stages, but the final panel of judges just felt there was a couple of things missing in the overall story. But they were hugely impressive all the way through, hugely impressive for what they achieved. So yes, so if you want an example of someone recently who's got into the final, who's a little bit older than maybe the picture we showed categorises, then it does happen.
It may well sound, you know, very petty to other folk, but until somebody actually, the first time I've actually had an experience of ageism, you think, oh my God, you know, it's out there, so we have to address it.
Yeah,
so
and it's Lynn, no, Lynn, thanks for asking it, and it's something we have discussed as a team. So it is something that we're aware of, and we're always conscious, because we've got the young age category, we need to balance that off as well. So thanks for asking that. It's a really valid point.
Thanks.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, we'll finish it off at that point. Just to say a massive thank you to everyone for joining us. I hope we've not scared too many off in terms of buying. But please bear in mind, we're here to help. If there is anything that people want to ask or just double check or just want clarification on, please get in touch, and we'll happily help and do what we can to support you. But good luck. Hopefully we'll see some of you in the application stage. Hopefully we'll see some of you further in the competition in an assessment stage, and hopefully we'll see some of you in our finals and winning awards at the latter start of the year, once we're announcing all our winners. So good luck, and we'll see what we get in the competition. So all the best, and thanks again for joining us.